Hey guys, it's Alpha from Alpha Animations, and I'm here with another Blender tutorial. Not sure if the screen's loaded yet, because it doesn't always load up for the first few seconds. But yeah, as you can see, I've been working on the script. I've just opened it up in 3D viewport duplicate up there because, I don't know, it was handy for the time being. But yeah, I've added some more stuff, so let's go through it all. The first thing I've done is I've put in the if for name in all of this code here. I don't really understand this 100%, but what I think is basically happening is you're checking if the bone has a name, then we're going to do it. So basically what you need to do is you need another define or function, whatever, and it's going to be names is selected, and it will return whether the selected bones are selected. And then what you can just do is if is selected and then the name of the bone. Now in this case I've done bone, but you could also have a bone called B, for example, and when I select B, that little thing appears. Now that's the other thing I didn't get into. Icons. To add an icon you can just go, for example, you could make a label, which is that text, and then just add an icon to it. So I've added an icon here for my advanced editing functions text, which again I didn't have in the last one, but I added it to demonstrate icons. And yeah. Now, buttons aren't just limited to layers and other stuff. You can also make buttons for making the X-ray of the armature turn on and off. There's all sorts you can create buttons for. So we're barely scratching the surface. Now, finding the code for specific buttons is quite complicated, but if you want it, I've got created one here. So context.activeObject, and yeah, this one's activeObject.data, this one's just activeObject, and then show underscore X-ray. And then I've also got one for draw type in case you want to change it to, for example, solid or wire. You can also change that, and that's in all the advanced options, which you can get rid of with that. Advanced basic. Now this is a clever trick I discovered, wherein I'm just using a layer, and when I hide the layer it hides the bone, and since the bone's no longer visible it doesn't count as selected. So that of course means if you deselect the bone, it's also going to go back to basic view. So yeah, but it was just the only workaround I could come up with at the moment because, yeah, I have rudimentary Python skills, so. Basically, how it's working is, what I'm doing is, if is selected bone, I'm going to show the X-ray, the draw type, and the layer thing. Now, what you should be thinking now is, hang on, why aren't those buttons appearing down at the bottom here rather than up amongst all this other stuff here? Because normally the code runs from top to bottom, so all of the buttons you write later, like, well, here I've written layers, then another layer, and then the slider, and then the boolean, and then they all fall in that specific order. So what I've done is I did some experimenting, and I discovered if you go viz column 1, then here, there, and viz column 2, it actually kind of saves that, and you can put stuff in visibility column 1 from down here. So you're not just defining a different line, you're defining like a whole bracket area, and no matter where in the code you reference it, you can always put stuff into there. So what I'm doing to get the button there and the text to change on this is I'm basically just using an if. So what I'm doing is if if the advanced bone is not selected, then I want this to show. If it is selected, then I want this to show. So as you can see, here is the advanced text, and that shows if bone is selected. Now, I can't just go if not selected. Well, I suppose I could, but it's actually easier just to write else in there, and again, if you write the viz column 1, it's going to reference to the first line, and then I've got viz column 2, so that these reference to the second line and pop in with that layer. And that's another thing I found. Now, this is a layer, as you can see over here, but it's not your generic layer button like you've got up there. It's an actual tick box. And how you do that is instead of going toggle, you go slider, because there are two types of buttons or inputs in Blender. There's toggles and there's sliders. So this is a toggle, and you can just hit either side to toggle it. And this is of course a slider, because you can slide it. And yeah, so you can just have a slider that, for example, toggles these three, a toggle that toggles these 3 cubes, for example. And that's just some basic drivers I added to those. I added those because a friend asked me to show him how to do that. But yeah, as for where to find all these icon names, the plus, the radio button on, and the radio button off, I just found those because they were some defaults, but I think you can do others, like, well, let's just test some now. So if we change this to, what might there be a button for? Camera. Is that how you spell camera? Oh, no, let's go render. Render. Run script. No such button. Let's try... Oh, well, it's given me... Yeah, that's where I got them the first time. They just gave a list of buttons. So let's go... error. That sounds like a reasonable button to use. Error. Run script. So there we go. You can create different buttons, and I guess all of the list of buttons will be on the wiki, but I don't actually know any of them yet, so I've just been using these. So yeah, I hope you learned something, and see you guys next time.